saga rolls on every single day. Let's put this into perspective today in the Commons. Rishi Sunak, we know, did a deal with Suella Braverman to get the leadership and said, I will be strong on Rwanda. Took the deal on from Johnson. Right now, he's stuck between the One Nation Tories, who are more centrist, and a bunch on the right wing, we'll hear from both sides on this show later, by the way, who want the ECHR thrown out and want him to toughen up. His is an impossible position. True or false?
It's a very difficult position, but it's not impossible. I'm an eternal optimist, and I know that the Conservative Party, both of those wings, will find a way through to make sure that actually this legislation delivers what it says it's going to do, that people that come into this country illegally, that do need to be deported, can be deported to Rwanda. That will be for UK judges to decide. It will be for UK ministers to have that say. And it won't be for a foreign court or a foreign judge to get out of bed in the middle of the night to halt a plane that should be deported where people have broken into this country illegally. Some
of the concerns with the bill as it stands is that it might be too easy, or the appeal system may be deemed too generous, Alicia, by some of the more right-wing side of Rishi Sunak's current crop of MPs. How's he trying to appease them? Because back in December, he said, look, OK, you want me to toughen this up, I will. But he hasn't really done that, has he?
No, so you're right in saying those on the right of the party just think it is way too soft. They kind of are arguing that if we've spent this much money on a policy and it doesn't really work, it's not very watertight, what is the point in spending all that money? So they are asking for a couple of things. They're saying that they want it to be impossible for individual migrants or asylum seekers to actually appeal their case. So if they're told they must go to Rwanda, that is it. And the second thing they want to do is try and bypass the European Court of Human Rights. So at the moment, as the bill stands, the European Court of Human Rights would be allowed to intervene last minute, literally last minute. That is what we saw initially with that first flight that you just explained in the graphic. They jumped in at the last minute and said, hang on, this flight can't go off. The government are really trying to bypass that and give ministers the power to totally overrule it. So Rishi Sunak has really been trying and please both sides here. Whether or not he's been successful in it, we'll have to wait and see.
It's really interesting, Charlie. Love everybody's view on this, what you said about it will get through. We've got Damien Green, one-time Deputy Prime Minister, sidekick to Theresa May. He's got a 24,000 majority in his seat. I think it's in Ashford in Kent, isn't it? When we get this near to an election, I'm interested, and I think people would be as well. Do MPs do what they're told? Do MPs do what's right for them? Do they ever ask their constituents? So if you're Damien Green and you've decided you're a One Nation Tory, who you say... He says, well, it'll probably pass, but we want to make sure we get it right. What do his constituents want? Because presumably MPs are thinking about where they might be in 12 months' time.
Well, there'll be an element of that. And, of course, you know, the job of an MP is to represent your constituents.
But do they ever take a... I mean, this is an interesting thing for me. In such a massive thing to our country, would an MP go to his constituency or her constituency and ask what that feeling is?
I think they do, and they will. But what you have to balance is the reality of what people want in your constituency to the reality of what, you know, can be achieved. So what I mean by that is essentially, of course, there'll be people who want a tougher stance on immigration in this country. They'll want the full force of the law, full throttle in terms of the policy. They don't want any European judge or anybody to overrule such deportations. But the fact is, if you don't vote for this particular bit of legislation, if you don't get on side, then the bill doesn't pass.
No, but my question is this. My question is, I bring this to you as well, Alicia. So early on in Parliament, if you don't follow the three-line whip, or you're seen to be, you know, not doing what the government want, you're probably consigned to the back benches, shunned, and you've got no chance of achieving anything, right? But with 12 months to go to an election, surely these MPs are thinking only about their election chances.
Well, I was just going to say, it was Brendan Clark-Smith, who's one of the people who are quite senior in the party. He's a deputy party chairman, and he's actually also said that he is going to be voting in favour of the right-wing amendments. And he cited with that, he said that his constituents think that the Rwanda bill needs toughening up. So he's kind of said, oh, I'm doing it because my constituents want me to, whether or not that actually is true.
And it's interesting, Lee Anderson the same as well. I just wonder if MPs are now going to go by what they think is good for them.
So much of this now, Alicia, wonder if you can just explain for us, there's a bit of jostling and people being able to say, I said this, I said that, but ultimately what we saw when this all came to a head in December is that the bill passed? And are we expecting something similar in the next 24 hours, but everyone's been able to have their say so they can kind of cover their backs?
Annoyingly, yes. Obviously, it's really annoying for everyone to hear that because there is such a distinction in Parliament procedure between noise and numbers. So you can hear all of this chatter before something and loads of people saying, oh, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to oppose this. And then when it comes down to it, they abstain from the vote, or they just simply vote with it because they don't want to anger their party. So I think we can probably expect something similar. The difference here is that we've got two separate things. We've got the amendments and then the vote for the actual bill.
Charlie, Sunak's staked his political career on this. Many will say he needs to. Others will say, you know, you didn't need to inherit it from Johnson, but you had to because you took a deal with Suella Braverman. Do you think this is the thing that finally will kill... I know you're always, everything's fine in the world, but it doesn't look great. Yesterday, a poll you won here, you know, a major... They're saying a landslide worse than 1997. The Tories could end up with 170 seats. Nothing seems to have turned the tide. Not him coming into the Premiership, not a couple of reshuffles, not his 5 picks or whatever. What do you make of the landscape for Sunak in the next 12 months?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of the question that you were saying, because if you don't vote for this bill as a Tory MP, if you don't want it, or if you're just relying on constituents, then you don't have a bill. You don't have a Rwanda policy. You might not have a Conservative government. If you think about voting for a Reform Party or anything on the fringes, you let Labour in through the back door, who have voted consistently against any kind of legislation that this Conservative government has brought forward. So if you don't want it and you don't vote for it, you frankly don't get it, you don't get the policy off the ground, it doesn't happen, and you're in a worse position than you were 12 months ago. So